Hey, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're having a great Saturday morning. So, I'm here with a very special guest. She was a candidate for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey. This is Christina Khalil, and we're really glad that she's here to join us this morning. We'll be taking any questions that you have. If you want to send any questions via Super Chat, that would be great. But I guess we just want to kind of get to know Christina and her progressive platform, what inspired her to run, what she thinks about the current political situation, etc. So, Christina, tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself.
I'm a first generation Egyptian. I grew up in foster care. What inspired me to run was so many things. Just my experience growing up in foster care and just being told that if you work hard, everything's going to, good things are going to happen. You're going to be able to buy a house. You're going to be able to do this. And then I worked hard. I went to college. I struggled. I pushed through. I overcame so many obstacles. And I'm just like, okay, now where's the part where I start living instead of struggling? Because I hit all these milestones. And the phrase that they beat into you, if you work hard and you do good and you're doing this, that, and a third, you're going to be able to afford a house, start a family. It's literally impossible. Everything goes up. The cost of living goes up. There's no federal regulations, nothing to actually make those words into a reality. And then...
Did you grow up in New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And what part of New Jersey?
Because I was in foster care, I tend to say like all over New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, I know north, central, and south, or north and south, depending on which New Jersey you're talking to. And then COVID really opened my eyes because I had a completely different perspective. So when the world shut down during COVID, my life actually never stopped. So I was still going to school full time and I was still working full time, but I happened to work in a hospital. So during that time, I was able to see my perspective was, I thought it was all about patient care. So I still believe the lies where it's like, oh, we care about the people. Let's figure out this disease, this pandemic and everything. And we didn't know anything about it. So like, we're trying to listen to the professionals, right? And then it started I started talking to different doctors were arguing with each other, administration was only caring about the dollar, and it became with, okay, COVID's this dangerous thing, why are we doubling people up before we get results back? Why are we putting people that are sick with people that aren't sick? Why are we rushing to fill up beds that we did have to rush because it was like we worked in a medical detox, but it was a lot of things where it was all about the money, then it became about the patient care. And then I've always had to like argue with insurance companies, but during COVID, there was that period where they were accepting everything. But after the insurance started losing a lot of money, they started denying everything. And then just being on the phone where like I evaluated the person, a nurse evaluated the person, a doctor evaluated the person. You have 3 professionals saying this person's sick. We need to get them admitted, and the insurance company not having the person in front of them. Like, we had the patient in front of us. We had medical scores. We had everything that I had, their biopsychosocial, their background, everything. And for the insurance company to tell me over the phone, we don't think they're sick enough. And I'm just like, and there were some cases where I'm like, if this person is like goes back out, there's a chance they might die. And then there were just some cases where I was just like, this keeps getting crazier, more out of control. And it was always about the money. It was never about the patients. And like, I had this one case, because the guy needed a lot of help. He was going through withdrawal, and the insurance company was saying that he wasn't sick. But I'm like, his cognitive ability has declined. He's lost a lot of weight. And he had a disease that was very life-threatening, and he hasn't been on medication for over a year for it. And I'm like, he's a husband, and he has a newborn child. This guy needs to get medical help. The insurance company said, absolutely not. So then I'm on the phone, and then my administration saying, kick him out. He can't get insurance. I'm like, I can't let this guy go. So I'm arguing with the administration while trying to get another person admitted, while trying to find something else for this guy. Because I'm like, I told him, you stay here. You're not going to leave. even if it takes me a couple hours, I have to find you something. So I'm on the phone with other people, because when you work in social services and you work in the mental health field, you develop a network of people. So I'm calling people up that I know. Do you think your hospital could do this? Do you think you know a doctor that could do this? This guy needs this type of medication, blah, 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 blah. And he also needs this type of treatment. And it took like a little bit over an hour, but I was able to find something, and we were able to secure a ride because he took a bus to the hospital. So I'm just like, if it wasn't for me taking the extra step, this guy could have been sent out to his deathbed, because I felt like I was looking at a corpse. So it was just astonishing how people were just like so dismissive of other human beings who were husbands, mothers, wives, fathers, daughters, brothers. Like, these are family members over $1. And for insurance companies to sit there and say this person's not sick enough, when you have 3 professionals saying this person is sick, this person is at risk of dying, this person needs a lot of help. And with COVID, where it's just like they were more focused on getting more money from the government, the administration, than they were about properly caring for the people during the pandemic. And keep in mind, again, like, this is in the beginning of the pandemic. Nobody knew anything, but instead of doing the PCR, they were going off of rapid tests. And they're like, oh, we knew the rapid tests at that point were 50% accurate. And the doctors were arguing with administration saying, we're not, why are you telling us if it's negative to still double them up because it's 50% accurate? They can be positive. And then with a negative person, the administration was saying, we don't care, we want to double up. It's more funds for us, more funding that we're going to get. So it was crazy, and it took a toll on my work, and it made me see what the policies were, like, essentially, and how everything really starts from the top. If you have people that are elected from the top that cares, because I know people say, oh, it starts from the ground up. That's very important for the foundation. But if you get people in the top that have the power, that say, this is what we're doing with the budget, this is what we're doing, or even just using their platform, like, they could get every bill denied, but they're still writing bills. They're still fighting for the people. You have people at the top that are calling out the BS. That is very powerful. And then at the same time, the people at the top could be helping to build that foundation of the new change that this country so badly needs.
Right. So how then did you decide to get involved in politics? Right. Your background seems to be with nursing, with social work, et cetera. What then got you involved in running for office?
So after that, I went into different fields, and it was just my collective experience, because I worked in different levels of care. So I just started looking at everything overall in the picture. And then I was researching different policies because I was learning more about it. I'm like, how is this even possible? How are we able to say no to people that need help? And then I was learning about the Senate. So that seat was very specific for me, because I do like to do international. I'm into policies, geopolitical issues. And I also like to know where the budget's going and how we're spending it and what the trickle down is. And then you also have the power to be more transparent. So where I can say, all right, I'm giving you guys this much money in this town, but you guys have to give me the receipts, and we're going to publish the receipts for the people. Mm-hmm. So it's more of an overall, because I know I'm capable of managing large amounts of money, because I have experience in writing grants and managing millions of dollars, and being able to gather the receipts. And I was very reliable when I was doing that, because it didn't matter where I was every week. I had to get the information. So if people didn't have their information, I just stood there until they gave me the information, because I'm like, my boss needs me to submit this, so let's get this information, so this data, so I can add it and submit it. And then I was just doing research on Booker and Menendez, and then I realized they really don't do anything. I'm like, everything keeps sending me back to the Senate seat. And then Menendez, I learned about his first federal trial. I'm like, why are we rewarding bad behavior with the second seat? Why did we do this? Why? And I was guilty of it too. Why did I vote blue no matter who? Why did I fall for that? Why did I think the Democrats were good when they don't even call each other's BS out? They just like line up in a line, and they're just like, okay, we're going to ignore our bad apples, but we're going to say that the Republicans are bad. And I'm not saying that they're good in all this, but I'm saying, like, I see in New Jersey, I've seen more Republicans hold each other accountable than I've ever seen any Democrats. And the progressive Dems that do hold each other accountable, they've been redistricted and they've been pushed out. So it's more of a corporate thing, but they're still more on the silent side. So it's just, Menendez really pissed me off with the second federal trial. And
yeah, I'm not familiar. It's funny. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I'm just over the border, but I actually don't know what happened with Menendez. What's the story there?
Oh gosh, what didn't happen with Menendez? So the first one, it was a lot. I actually did a Twitter space and I read like every single charge and everything, but this was a very long time ago. But his first crimes involved Medicare fraud, and then he wound up throwing his friend under the bus, and then he wound up getting reelected to the seat, and everyone's just like, okay, we're gonna look the other way. Then the second one, it was him having gold bars, but the more I'm like, having gold bars, like, I know people that like trade cash, like will buy gold bars. So I'm like, okay, so what's the issue? Oh, it's Egyptian gold bars. And then you're researching, and I'm like, okay, I know the Egyptian government is very corrupt, but also they're on the side of the US corruption. So I'm just like, now where's the real issue? Oh, his wife did a hit and run and killed someone. And then they have it on dash cam and the cops covered it up. And I'm like, everything just gets worse. And there's allegedly, his victims that were minors, where he was flying to the DR, and then allegedly he was, sleeping with young women, and it just
wow.
Yeah.
This guy is it sounds like organized crime. This guy, it sounds like you have like the Godfather as your New Jersey.
Yeah, so it just gets worse progressively. The more stuff you research, then it's conspiracy, but it's like, it's not just that, but the Menendez federal trials, where I'm just like, okay, I'm looking at this, but how many other people have done worse things, and why now are they hanging Menendez? You know what I mean? Like, why are they hanging him out to dry? And that part I haven't figured out, because they've all done crime. Not saying Menendez deserves to have another seat or anything, and he needs to be held accountable for all his crimes, but so does everyone else.
Yeah.
So and he was the second AIPAC person, the number 2 that got the most money, and I think Biden was the number 1.
Yeah.
So it was, but why now? Why are they holding him out to dry? And why is it okay for him to do this? Because everyone that's turned the other way and looked the other way, they've been enabled. They're getting away with it. And why aren't we holding everyone that's committed a crime accountable? Like,
well, it's interesting. I know the Israel lobby has a lot of power, in New Jersey in particular. I remember when I first moved to New York, like a decade ago, there was some kind of violent incident. So a lot of the synagogues in New Jersey were making a big point of having their members holding up guns, right, with guns. And I remember looking at that and thinking, my goodness, what would happen if a mosque ever did that? That would be the end of the world. Like, people would go to jail. But they had all these synagogues in New Jersey where they were carrying around their AK-47s or their M16.
I'm going to research that, because I'm in New Jersey. I never even heard of that.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And I just thought about like the double standard. But I know that child marriage was legal in New Jersey for a long time, and that was because of Orthodox Jews, right? That they have child marriage or something like that. I
would have to research that one. Okay. I know it's legalized in other states, but I actually never even looked that up in New Jersey.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I know that the Israel lobby has a lot of power in your state. Do you want to talk about that to some degree, or?
It's more. I'm not going to talk just about the law. Actually, you know what? Maybe it is interconnected, so maybe we can. I could just tell you what I know overall, what I've seen overall, and it goes into the whole what they just did. They just made it harder for third parties to get on the ballot with the raising the signature threshold. Sure. Is they have, so the way New Jersey politics is framed, we have 49 other states. New Jersey politics are very special. I've spoken to people in Washington, and I tend to agree with them. New Jersey is the most corrupt state out of all the states.
Wow.
And I don't know why New Jersey is so special about the corruption and stuff like that, but it's a one-party system. So we do have Democrats and we do have Republicans, but we have people that are elected to these seats that do not work. Like we do have Republicans that are congressmen and women, and we do have senators and Democrats that are congressmen and women as well. That like Andy Kim's one of them. They're elected. They're not progressive. They say good words to try and lure people in. But if you look at their history and their receipt, they've never done anything. Van Drew is in Cumberland County, and he was very interesting. And to see, I'm going to just bring that up because I went to Cumberland County to do a meet and greet with people. It was all the politicians there, and Van Drew was there. And I don't hate the guy. I don't like the guy. I do think it's time for him to be replaced with somebody else. It was, I never heard this before, but they wanted to separate Cumberland County from New Jersey and make it its own state. And I'm like, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard, that you guys feed this. But it turns out it's been going on for years, that they feed this to people in Cumberland County, the voters, and they really voice a lot of segregation with North and South Jersey. And they're just like, oh, if they don't like our ideologies and stuff like that, we're going to keep fighting to separate Cumberland County from the state. And I'm just like, what does it speaks volumes when you have elected officials that do not know how to come together and compromise or work out actually conversations to let, okay, people care about these issues, other people care about these issues. What does the middle ground look like? How do we get their voices heard? And then you go to the extreme. Oh, you don't like it? We're going to fight to get to separate our community from the state of New Jersey. So I view New Jersey politics as a one-party system. They both work for each other. They both work for corporations. They work for real estate. They work for the healthcare lobbyists. They work for the Israeli lobbyists. They work for so many different people. It's however much money you can donate to them, that's what they're going to say and support.
Okay, so what was your platform when you ran for the Senate this fall?
So my platform, there was a lot of things on my platform, but essentially it was redesigning immigration because it is a big issue. So let's tear down what we have and let's rebuild it up. And would also be bringing thousands of brand new jobs to people across the country. And it would be bringing more jobs within the communities too, because what essentially it would be doing is we're going to be doing more vetting, reunification. People are so worried about their neighbors, so we would have an integration program where the neighbors get to know the new people, community events, helping with resumes, because currently people are upset, people that come to this country don't work. Well, they're actually not allowed to work. Our laws prevent them from working 6 months to a year when they first come to the country. So changing that, because people that do come to the country, they do want to work. And this would also help prevent the children from going missing as well, because we're going to have more community involvement. People aren't going to be scared of each other. And we'll hire people within the community to help people with resumes and stuff like that. So that way it'd be better integration program. The other thing was affordable housing, which is taking the power out of banks and giving more power to the communities. And we have to do more regulations. We have to redesign how the mortgage system is done, because if you're able to pay your rent, and I paid my rent on time for every time I rented, I've always paid my rent, but like just this place, I paid my rent on time and I've been here for almost 10 years. I still can't buy a house. It's kind of ridiculous. So I know my rent is more than what my mortgage is going to be. So I'm just like, so you're telling me I can't afford a house, and I take care of the property too. My landlord would be like, oh, Christina, go do this or do that. Can you rent to pick this up? I help my landlord out too. So it's like, I'm capable of taking care of property. I'm capable of taking care of a mortgage and holding down the job. And I'm still not able to buy a house. So redesign that entire process. And then also what would be the third one? Because there's a lot that I think are hot topics. I think I would want to highlight universal health care then. And that would include mental health, because I even have people that pay for insurance, and I think it's a little ridiculous that they're paying for insurance, they can't afford the co-payment, they can't afford the deductible, but their premium is so high, and I'll have people that will start treatment with me, and then they're just like, even with a payment plan, even if I lower like if I'm like, okay, let's do this, let's try and do $20 a month, or $20 a session or $10 a session, let's lower everything, and they still can't afford that because of how much their mortgage is, or the rent is, or all this stuff. The inflation is just out of control. So universal healthcare is a must, and making access to healthcare easier, because we do have people that are in rural areas, that are elderly. We want to make sure that nursing homes aren't abusing their patients. We want to have people that are in these jobs that care more for that care more for the patient care than they do for profit. So putting people over profits. So essentially my platform was taking a lot of the abuse of power out of the federal government and giving more power back to the people.
Now, I do want to shout out to everyone who's watching in the chat. If you have a question for Christina or myself or both of us, feel free to send a super chat. I did want to say, Gavin, he says, Miss Khalil looks much better on this stream than in the airbrushed photo on the website. So there you go. He's saying, he's complimenting your appearance.
Oh, thank you.
And there's some Jersey folks in the chat. Somebody I think was from Gloucester Township, We the People News Network. So shout out from your state. He was saying that he believed Menendez got set up by the Mossad. So that's kind of interesting there. I
do want to say something. Menendez, and this is just conspiracy. There's absolutely no evidence in any way, shape, or form. All I know is Menendez was quoted saying to people in Israel, you have, I forgot his words, but he essentially said they have to stop doing what they're doing in Palestine.
I see. Interesting.
So, and then, but he already had a first federal charge. So this is just me having a conspiracy. Again, like there's no evidence. And then like the second federal charge happened, but then I'm wondering, and then also Murphy did want to stay in power. So he wanted his wife to take the seat. So it's just, there are other things that are happening in the background. But the other thing was that I'm going to do the fourth thing, something to highlight that was on my platform that I thought was very important. For New Jersey, I wanted to do a lot of transparency. And if I was elected, I wanted to show receipts from 2020 to now, what happened with all our money, where all our budget went to. And I wanted people to be held accountable, because I did a lot of research, and $15 million vanished in the last decade.
Wow.
For mental health. And no one, when you're looking at the data and the research, when auditing's happening, after the audit, no one's held accountable. Oh, we're missing a couple $1 million. Oh, okay. And then you just leave it. That's what they do. They just leave it. No one's held accountable. No one gets fired. No one goes to jail. No one gets raided. No one gets audited. No one has to make it up. And it's just there in the file in the database. Like no one takes the next step.
Wow.
And that's money taken from the people.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, what was your campaign like? I know, I met you in Washington, D.C. at the Black is Back March for Uhuru. And I know you probably went to many different parts of the state and participated in a lot of activities. So let's go over some of the highlights of when you were on the campaign trail in New Jersey.
Okay. So I want people to understand I was working, I am still working, but during that time I was working a full-time and part-time job. So it was a lot. And the person that I had as a manager, there was a family emergency, so they had to leave to another state to take care of their family. So unfortunately, they weren't able to continue being my manager because I needed somebody in the state of New Jersey. And their family member's doing good now, which is great. And we still keep in touch. And I've been getting as much guidance as I possibly can. But I don't know if I would do it again as a third party. The reason being is, and I'm not against third parties, because the Green Party is really good. And so is PSL. Like there's a lot of heart and soul, but we need a lot more organizing. So for like third parties, I would say we do have to come to a compromise, and we do have to work with some people that want to be progressive. Like we do need to unite, and whatever party a person wants to be part of, I don't care about the party, I care about the person. So if there are some people I think are amazing that were running for PSL, there's some people that I think were amazing that were Republicans, and so far so forth, like a progressive Dem. But it's the black and white thinking that really killed my motivation in a lot of it. But I guess I could complain about that later. But let me go back to the campaign trail. So it was a lot. So there were times where I'd work both jobs, and then I'd have to drive somewhere else afterwards. So like I would eat at like 11 a.m. and then I wouldn't eat again until like 10 p.m. or I'd be too tired, so I wouldn't eat until the very next day. And it would just be exhausting. But it came down to me running this entire campaign by myself. So I would never do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But I already went into this. I didn't run for myself. I ran for my patients and my clients. And unfortunately, not everyone survived. So it was, how do we prevent more deaths from happening in this country? How do I take this to a larger scale? How do I help people? Because it was really our federal policies that were killing people's families. And another thing to highlight is I've had people come to me for trauma because a lot of people don't feel like they have a choice. And one of the retirement plans that none of our elected officials are talking about, which drives me crazy, is it's suicide. So a retirement plan, they take out a life insurance policy. Life insurance has a 2-year max usually. Sometimes they don't, where you have to wait 2 years and then you could commit suicide and then your family gets a large payout. So families don't want that. They want their loved ones there.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about how do we prevent suicide, and suicide's just been going up. Mental health has been a number one hot topic issue, and it all is related to policy choices because homelessness is on a rise.
Yeah.
The basic needs aren't really there. Health care is an issue. Our water isn't safe to drink. Food's inaccessible. And then kids are getting into trouble because parents have to work 2 or 3 jobs. So parents aren't home because they're trying to figure everything out. And then who's raising these kids? So it's how do we bring everything back to making everything. That was my motivation to keep going, where I was just essentially okay, I'm going to keep pushing myself forward. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give it my all. And I wound up raising, $13,000, and it was my very first run, and I was the top independent in the entire state. So, and there were some counties, if you compare to the other independents, I won a lot of counties compared to other independents, which was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where the future is. I am interested in continuing in politics. In the future, but right now I'm planning to do a tour with some other people across the state of New Jersey, because we do need people to run, and we do need people to sign up. And it's teaching people what different levels, what does school board do, what does city council do, Congress, state senator, federal senator, having everything connected. And how
let me ask you. So when you ran the campaign by yourself, did you, did you petition all by yourself? Because I know it was hard to get on the ballot. Were there people that helped you petition, or?
Yeah, so I did have, it was other Green Party members, other Green Party candidates that helped me petition.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the lack of organizing, because we did have people that were interested in volunteering, but we didn't have anyone to manage them. And then a lot of people kept asking me for help, and I'm just I'm working a full-time and a part-time, and I'm barely hanging on by a thread. I'm unable to help. And I to this day I said, I told them, they're well, I want to do this, this, and this. If you could get me someone that can sit me down for 1 hour with them, and I can give them all this information to pass along to you, and they can organize and spread it to every candidate, I will do that. Not one person was willing to sit down with me for 1 hour. I'm I can't do this. My time is so limited, but I will take a Saturday or Sunday and dedicate 1 hour to put all this information to you guys. So this person can manage all these other counties and help the other candidates. Nobody wanted to sit down and do that because everyone was burnt out and exhausted. But I'm like, but we need people. And then it was just the lack of organizing, which I didn't. If I knew that going in, I don't know if I would have ran under Green Party, but I did make a lot of friends in Green Party, and Robin, she was a candidate, but she's organizing very well in South Jersey, so I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Robin, for viewers, who is that? Robin?
She was a congressional candidate.
What's her name?
I forgot her last name, but it's Robin. Okay. You can look her up. Like, yeah, there's only one Robin that ran. So she's continuing to organize, and then I'm planning the state tour with other people. And I'm doing it with progressive Dems. I'm doing it with Republicans as well. So people could come in, and you're seeing we're all on the same side. Our goal, no matter what party, is for the people to be taken care of. So it's not about the party, because I can't stand that black and white thinking where it's like, oh, we have to support this person because they're part of the party. And I'm just like, well, they don't align with really, it doesn't sound like they're being authentic. I'm not going to support them.
Well, I'm curious also about internal Green Party politics, right? Because I know the Green Party, when it was founded, it was kind of an environmental hippie kind of party, but this year the Green Party really became the pro-Palestine party. I mean, that's what they were known for, was that Jill Stein was critical of U.S. policy when it came to Israel-Palestine, and stood up to the Democrats and got the CARE endorsement. And that I know that, in Michigan, I worked with the Green Party out there, and then in Michigan, it's very much like a socialist party, right? A lot of different Trotskyite and socialist groups, and that there's a lot of different views inside the Green Party. Jill Stein is kind of the public face of the Green Party at this point. We saw her, she was out in front of the courthouse in Tampa on the opening of the Uhuru trial, speaking at the press conference and stuff. So where is the Green Party at internally? Like, what is the Green Party of New Jersey like compared to the national Green Party? What are the internal dynamics?
I think we're still trying to figure it out. There are no really internal dynamics. It's a mess, but we're trying to organize. But I do want to highlight that Green Party needs to do much better when it comes to vetting in GPNJ. Like, I love National and I love Jill Stein. So when I say this, please separate National and Stein and the other state parties from this. But in GPNJ, you can't let personal friendships and feelings get in the way of holding other people accountable. And that's what I'll say, because it's like people are so quick. And that's what I see, if you're looking at corporate Dems or you're looking at corporate Republicans, the establishment, people, like what I got told from the Democratic Party, oh, Menendez is our friend, we're not going to actually support you after being lied to. Like, oh, we love you, we love that you're running, we love, and blah, blah, blah. So I did start as a progressive Dem, and then I wound up switching to Green, and then being told you can't cut the line. So they started this momentum with me, and then they're telling me at the end, oh, she's actually starting to make noise. She's getting noticed. She's going for interviews. And then, oh, you can't cut the line. You can't go in front of Menendez. You have to be asked to run. You can't actually just run because you want to. Menendez is our friend. We're not going to go against him, and we're not going to support anyone that's against Menendez. So I was already seeing this division that was happening before it became more public, I guess, where I was just like, okay, I'm going to make the switch. And then I told GPNJ, because Green Party was interested in me, I said, I will help GPNJ. I will switch to GPNJ, but I need a full slate of candidates.
Okay. So we have a question, a super chat that came in. And Gavin, he said, my question is too long for any super chat options. So I'll put it in the text comment here. He paid a super chat. So here we go. He says, hi, Ms. Khalil. I agree with most of your policies, but I am disturbed by the notion of banning conversion therapy, a term the media uses to defame mainstream psychotherapy for people with unwanted sexual attraction, same-sex attractions. These kinds of bans have resulted in banning talk therapy for people who go voluntarily to a trained professional seeking to lessen their same-sex desires, even in to stop suicide or to marry or to protect existing families. There's a myth that Christians and Muslims do electric shocks, but this practice was only popular in secular British clinics and isn't done anymore. What is your response to that?
So I guess the question is like, are you asking my thoughts on conversion therapy?
I guess that's what he's asking. It was quite a long, involved question. So
Yeah.
there he goes.
So I don't support it. I do support equality for all, and I do work. I think it does need to be taken out of politics completely and back into the hands of professionals,
Mhm.
because there's no transition or anything happening in schools.
Right.
So that would just be my 2 cents. I
Yeah.
hope that sort of answers your question.
Okay.
Unless there was something specific that you're looking for, like we shouldn't be hurting anybody based on who they're attracted to.
Sure. No, it's an interesting question. I didn't know. Is that I didn't realize that was an issue. I had understood that it was illegal in some states for minors, right? That it's considered abuse, right? If a young person is LGBT and their parents force them to go to a therapist that's going to try to change their sexual desires. That's for minors. But is it illegal for adults as well? Or I mean, what? I mean,
Well, I would assume conversion therapy is abusive in any way.
okay.
So now, do I have people that come to me that are just like, I think I'm attracted to these type, like this person or this gender, and they're trying to work it out. Yeah, there are people that struggle with internalized homophobia that are gay. There are people that don't understand why they're attracted to certain people. So it's when I say take it out of politics and put it back into the hands of professionals, you're creating that safe environment where people could really have those conversations without being judged. And then because it's not, if you look at the history of psychology, people, especially when they're young, they do explore their sexuality. They are curious.
Sure.
So when you politicize and you advertise it so much to people that are exploring that are at the ages of their sexual exploration, they tend to they'll Google it and be like, oh, this is what I am. But meanwhile, it could be a different diagnosis or a different issue going on. We don't want people going to Google or going to whatever group chats to like explore certain things. We want people to have easy access to mental health professionals or just professionals in general that are just like, this is what I'm seeing. These are my emotions. Let's explore. And then also being able to have encouraging them to have these conversations with their parents, as long as the parents are safe and there's no physical abuse or violence toward them. So even encouraging family therapy. But in order for that to happen, we have to create universal health care.
Well, it's interesting because that became a big issue. Republicans, and first of all, my position is that we need to stay away from culture wars. That is my position, right? I want to focus on economics. I want to focus on ending the wars. I don't want to talk about everyone's. But I came down on personally, first of all, my organization, Center for Political Innovation, we are neutral on all these issues, right? There are people that are against gay marriage, there are people that are for it, there are people that are against abortion, there are people that are for it. We are neutral on all those issues. But I personally, some of the stuff, the culture war stuff around this stuff, I've come down on either side of. For example, like when there was a ban in Texas on certain treatments, I thought, look, it's between the doctor and the child and their parents. It's not between the government, right? And that the government shouldn't be telling parents and families and children what kind of treatment they can get, and all of that. So I was not in agreement with Republicans on that. But then there was the law in Florida where they said that that there shouldn't be education about LGBT, I think, for people under the age of 8. And I was like, yeah, I think that when you're 8, that's something you should talk about with your parents, with your church or whatever, and then when you're older, obviously you do have to talk about those kinds of things in school. But for under the age of 8, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that law. So I was with the Republicans on that one. So, yeah.
And I want to, and I wish I would like to look at the curriculum because I know every state is different. Yeah. But under the age of 8, it's not. I'm not saying support the LGBTQ, but there needs to be some sort of preventative education involved, because kids are on the internet, and I've worked and I don't know if I'm legally allowed to, because I had to sign an NDA. I worked in preventing essentially child abuse from happening.
Oh, that's
I
good.
cannot stress enough that you have kids raised on iPads and YouTube and all this stuff. If you're going to let your child, and it's not even just that, because you can say my child doesn't have it, but when they're going to school, their friends have access to stuff. So your kid's going to be exposed because their friend's going to show them stuff. So
Wow.
you have to keep in mind there has to be some sort of a curriculum to teach kids these are dangers. You have to go to your parents. You need to be able to recognize it, but it's got to be a kid-friendly language too. You need to be so.
I never even thought of this. This is a really, wow, I never even considered this. Go on. This is really interesting. I never.
Predators.
Yeah, I grew up. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter when I was a kid. I'm 30. I'm about to turn 37 years old. So I never thought of this. But go on. This is really interesting.
Like the predators are so alive and well and like active on the internet. And they can send links that can hack in and look at, the cameras. And there are times where I've had parents call me up and be like, my kid was watching a kid-friendly thing, and then I turn around for 5 minutes, and this guy had them convince them somehow this webcam popped up, and now my kid's got their shirt off. And I'm just like, I just turn around for 5 minutes. How did this happen? So I can't stress enough. There has to be something within the household or something within the school system, something out there that teaches kids in a child-friendly language what the dangers are and how do you talk to you. And it has to be within like the age-appropriate language where they can know when to go to their parents and they know when to go to a teacher and they know how to recognize what danger is, because people don't assume at that age kids are being exposed to adult content, but they really are. And
this is fascinating. See, I think you've changed my mind in real time. See, it never occurred to me that this law about under the age of 8 would prevent things that are necessary to protect children from being harmed in this manner. I never even thought of that. So I never thought of that. So wow, okay,
And the other thing I like to share with parents is, well, just in general, because I know, it's a very hard topic. I've worked with families, so it's a very hard topic to really, essentially, if you're not there to teach your kids or you don't create that safe space to teach your kids, someone online is going to teach them, and that's inevitable. So I always say, figure it out, learn how to have the uncomfortable conversations, learn how to create a safe internet stream. Like there are apps that some parents that are very proactive in trying to prevent any sort of abuse from happening. Like they have apps on their kid's phone where whatever they Google search up until a certain age, like when they're just like, okay, I think, you're 16, 17, I think you're more independent, whatever. Sure. But when they're young and they're like, under the age of 10 or like they're 6 or 7, like they have these apps where you can see who they're texting, who they're messaging. You're just monitoring. Sure. And you're able to, you Googled this, but it still doesn't prevent, like a friend could not have that app and then they're searching stuff and then they're showing that to your kid. Like kids are exposed, kids do show each other stuff. And then how do you create that safe environment where your kid can have these conversations with you? Like I can't even stress, like even kids with cancer aren't even safe. Like I've heard of a case where my jaw dropped, where St. Jude's, you donate to the cancer, then you get like
their ads constantly.
Yeah. So one of the predators would donate, and then the therapist, he was on my caseload, but the therapist was like, why do you keep donating? Like this is really weird. And it's because he was getting pictures of the kids. And there's very innocent pictures. So it's like, I can't even stress, like no child is safe when it comes to the internet. And if their friends or your kid has access, like they're not safe. So parents, I'm not against curriculum being developed. It just has to be appropriate. Great for the language that they speak at their age, but there has to be something when it comes to preventing abuse of children.
Well, this is an interesting conversation. Well, anybody else who has any questions for Christina or myself or both of us, please keep it coming. I did not anticipate Gavin's question, and I also learned a lot from the answers. So this is a really interesting conversation. This is Christina Khalil, for anyone who's just been joining. I know people are kind of trickling in. She was a Senate candidate for the Green Party in the state of New Jersey. You know, do you want to tell your impression? You and I both were speakers at the Black is Back March to support the Uhuru movement in Washington, D.C. Do you want to kind of give your thoughts on that case? Because I know that's how I met you and ended up bringing you on this channel. So give your perspective.
I wish they didn't get probation. They should have been free. That's just my 2 cents. But I'm disappointed in seeing the left abandonment of them, and seeing that, like, because they do the protest every year, it's the same weekend every year, and seeing really the Palestinian groups abandon them. And meanwhile, they've never abandoned their foundation.
Yeah, well, I mean, give the background. Obviously, this is the Uhuru 3, right?
Yeah.
You know, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and Amalia Shatella, they were charged with being agents of Russia. They were dragged to federal court, and you know, CPI, we were out in the front supporting them from the beginning. And they you know, were just recently sentenced. They were found not guilty of the charge of being Russian agents, contrary to some media reports that said that they were convicted, which is not accurate, which I was blown away to see headlines. Convicted Russian agents? No, not convicted, you know, but they were found guilty of conspiracy. And so there was a huge amount of protest to make sure they didn't end up going to prison. And I consider it a great victory. They didn't get a fine, a huge fine, or in prison time. But ultimately, I agree with you that they should never have been charged. I mean, the whole case is completely outrageous. But you were mentioning about Palestine groups and leftists not supporting them. What did you observe in that regard?
I want to say it was 3 years ago when it was that giant protest in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same weekend as the Uhuru. Was it 3 years ago or maybe 2?
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years
ago. I remember.
Yeah. And it was, they did it the same, like, it was not the weekend after. They couldn't do it the weekend before, but they did it the same weekend, and they took the attention away from the Uhuru 3.
Yeah.
And
well, and they messed with their permit. It was PSL, you know, that kind of, you know, they love to control the permits. Brian Becker has turned it into, like, for years, he's reserved the permits for protests years in advance, and he plays this game where he controls the permit and or to have a rally in DC and all of that. So they were going to have their annual march, and from what I understand, PSL was having the big Palestine march, and they even, like, tried to mess with their ability to have their march, which was just absolutely reprehensible. This group has been raided by the FBI. They're facing indictment. They have their annual rally, and instead of welcoming them and supporting them, you know, the idea was to kind of
they've worked together before.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So they've worked together, and the Uhuru's never been against, you know, supporting Palestine. So it was just astonishing. Where it was just like, okay, well, right now both organizations need it, and you know, the Black is Back coalition never said they weren't going to talk about Palestine, because they always talk about Palestine.
Of course.
They always include them. They always talk about how their case is connected. But with that mega march that brought, like, such a huge platform, because I was at the Black is Back coalition march, I didn't go to that Palestinian march. So it was 2 separate protests. It was the segregation, and it was just like, it was just astonishing just to sort of witness that. And then, like, even afterwards, where you have people like Tucker Carlson, now you got more of the right wing people going over to support them, because they're like, whether I agree with everything you're doing or not, it doesn't matter, but free speech is free speech. You're allowed to say what you want, and you shouldn't be charged. So it was just like seeing where new support was coming from, where I'm just like, I didn't see it even going in this direction. And it was just disappointing, because even last year when I went in November and when I met you, it wasn't as big as it should have been. And I still don't understand why such a large amount of people dropped them, why such a large amount of people didn't care, why such a large different groups, when they've always been there to care for everyone.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because immediately after the raid, we were supporting them, and we, CPI, Center for Political Innovation, we got attacked for having them at our conference by a couple YouTube channels because they said the group is a cult. And it's like, well, it's not a crime to be a cult. This is America. We were started. The country was started by cults. So that, I mean, I'm not saying they are a cult. They don't look that way to me. They look like a very healthy organization. But even if they were, this is America. I'm sorry. Utah was started by the Mormons, and we got Shakers and Quakers, and America is like the land of cults. So there's no. I mean that's not even an argument. That doesn't that doesn't justify anything. But the word just got sent out on the internet. And also, they conflated them with another organization. There was another group that was like a breakaway from them called Black Hammer. And Black Hammer, Black Hammer did a lot of provocative things that were designed to they wanted to kind of get attention on social media. So they did a lot of very provocative things that were designed to make people angry. But they were a completely separate organization. Uhuru and Black Hammer parted ways. They're not the same organization. And so people were saying that they're the same as Black Hammer, and Black Hammer is a cult, so they must be a cult. And Black Hammer, did all these provocative things, which even the things that Black Hammer did that were provocative, they were stupid, but they weren't illegal. Like one thing I guess Black Hammer did was that, they knew this would cause outrage, is that they were burning copies of Anne Frank's diary because they said, oh, she's a white person, and they never teach about the oppression of Black people in school. And I think emails have been leaked and revealed. They were just doing that to generate outrage. Everyone's going to be offended if you burn copies of Anne Frank's autobiography, but that's going to go viral, right? And that's going to get attention. And they were doing things like that. But they were a separate organization that broke away, had nothing to do with Uhuru. And so based on some internet drama, people were not standing by people that were facing serious prison time for something that's not a crime, speaking about foreign policy. I mean, it was a very serious thing. And the fact that the right, there were people on the right who were willing to speak up for this Black socialist group, and the left was silent. I mean, that just really blew my mind. And it shows me that, the internet gossip and all of that has really done a number on solidarity.
100%. And you brought up a good point. When I was running in the Green Party, it's a lot of gatekeeping and black and white thinking, where I was told, don't talk to this person, don't engage with this person, don't go to these meetings, you can't speak to this organization. And I'm just like, I'm a very, look, I grew up in foster care. I did everything by myself. And I do have the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So I'm not like negating them when I make this statement, but it's like, I'm independent. I've always been independent. I've always, within respect for my partner and everything, but it's like, I don't need to be gatekept. And I don't need to be told I can't talk to certain people. Now, if the person's like very dangerous or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like an organization, I have to have that conversation, and I have to like really gather all the evidence. And I can't really like sit there and be like, oh, this person's bad because of what you told me. And you can't judge me. And like, because they were quick. I had an organization in New Jersey that wanted to review some data with me because they really wanted me to win. And this was like a Democratic organization. They didn't want Andy Kim to win. So I'm not going to like really say their name because I don't want to throw them under the bus. So they sat with me and they were just like, okay, this is the data. Let's try and do this, like focus on these people. And this is how we're going to get both votes for you. So it was like seeing that was pretty cool. But also like when I talked to people, they were just like, they're not my managers. Other candidates in the Green Party, chairman, none of these people are my managers. No one's helping me. And they're just like, well, I want to see the information. I had no problem sharing the information. They're like, no, they're lying to you. No, they showed me the fucking data that they collected, the research. That's not a lie. You can't make this up. They showed it to me. I can look it up online. The data's there. They're like, well, no one reached out to me. So I want to see it. I set up a meeting with them so we can have a conversation. You're not my manager. I don't have to set up any meeting for anyone. Now, if you want to step up and be my manager, that's a different story. But it was a whole like gatekeeping. And then there was this one time, it was really offensive. Like I'm getting donations and stuff. And someone in the Green Party, like we were all in a group chat, and someone referred to me as like, oh, she's going to make us a lot of money. I'm like, I'm not here to make you guys money. Like, I'm in this group chat. My name's Christina, and I'm not here to make money. I'm here to fundraise to hopefully win and like get, you know, actual policies passed. Like, I'm not a cash cow. I'm not, you know, a dollar sign on my ATM machine. Like, I'm here to actually do the work that needs to be done, because I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. I'm not scared to work. I'm not scared to challenge people in office. So it was just the gatekeeping, the black and white thinking, and that stuff sort of, I saw that a lot too. Where it's like, oh, you can't go to PSL, you can't do this. People got mad that I said nice words about John Hugh. And I'm just like, John Hughes spoke so highly of the Green Party. Why am I not going to speak highly of a progressive Dem? Like, what does his party have to do with anything? Republicans are even defending right now that are against the signature threshold being raised. Why am I going to knock these people down? I'm more focused on the individual than the party. And I think we should all be. There are people who feel like a certain party aligns with their ideologies. Let them align. I don't care what they're registered with. Oh, you have to support this person. So it's just like that's all I'm saying is I recognize what you're talking about, because it's like one thing happens, everyone jumps on the bandwagon because the critical thinking's just not there.
Yeah, well, to address something in the chat, someone said, would CPI run local candidates? We are not a political party, so no, we don't run candidates and we don't endorse candidates. We are an education organization dedicated to promoting anti-imperialism, anti-globalism, winning justice for working families, educating people about, the need for a government of action that fights for working families, et cetera. And we don't endorse candidates. And actually, in this last presidential election, there were people in CPI who voted for Trump. There were people in CPI who voted for Jill Stein. I would say probably the most of our members voted for Jill Stein of anybody. But there were people in CPI who voted for Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva got write-in votes from CPI members. I don't think anyone in CPI voted for Biden, but there might have been. It's possible. We don't see our role as, we don't tell members who to vote for. We don't endorse candidates. We engage in education, and that's what we do. So I just wanted to be clear about that. At one point we were a nonprofit, and if you are a nonprofit, you absolutely cannot, campaign for anybody. At this point, we're not a nonprofit, but we're not a PAC either, right? In order to engage in campaigning or endorse candidates, you need to be a registered PAC, and we are not that. And I did interview Dr. Shiva on my YouTube channel. He was running for president. And in previous elections, I interviewed the Green Party candidate. I didn't interview Jill Stein, but I interviewed Howie Hawkins. He's come on this YouTube channel.
Howie's good. I like him.
Yeah. He's come on, and I interviewed him on this channel before. And I would interview Kamala Harris. I would interview, Joe Biden. I would interview Donald Trump. I have asked Donald Trump a question at a press conference, and he answered it, and that was in 2016. And I always tell people, before he answered, I was the last question at the press conference, and he said, all right, one more. Who's my favorite reporter? Who? You. Go ahead. So I always tell people I'm Donald Trump's favorite reporter. He said it himself. We have it on film. I am Donald Trump's favorite reporter. I joke, but hey, someone said on my next book I should put on the back, my favorite reporter, Trump. But but there you go. We shall see. So that's how these things work. You express some frustration with progressive circles and the way people are very cliquish, and you can't talk to this person, you can't talk to that person, and all of that. I've always said with CPI, we allow dual membership. You can be a member of any political party and be in CPI. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians. I will say the Libertarian Party was very nice and welcomed us to their convention. And not only did they allow us to attend their convention, they made sure that I got invited to the event with Trump at the Libertarian Party convention. And then on top of that, we distributed 1,000 copies of our pamphlet, Do You Believe in Growth, which talks about the Uhuru case, among other things. We distributed 1,000 copies of our pamphlet at the Libertarian Party convention. We were just walking around handing out our pamphlet. No one stopped us or anything. And that was nice. And then Angela McCurdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, she's a friend of mine. She obviously doesn't agree with me about economics, right? I believe that we need a government that controls the economy in order to have economic growth. She obviously believes we need to get the government completely out of the economy. She's a libertarian. But on international stuff and on FBI repression, on a lot of issues, we're on the same page. So I am for talking to everyone, right? I want to engage with everyone.
That's how it should be.
What's that?
That's how it should be.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us more.
Well, no, the reason being, like, that's exactly how it should be, because that's how we compromise and find the middle ground and really pass policies for the working class. Because when you have this black and white thinking of both sides of extremism, you're unable to come to the middle ground, and we're never going to get universal health care. We're never going to get affordable housing at the rate everything's going. So that's where I'm at with everything, where I'm just like, I'm even trying to figure out, do I want to stay registered as green or do I want to go unaffiliated? Because like, even like Rich Siegel, for example, he's thinking about running against Gottheimer for Congress in 2 years. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, no matter what, I'm going to support Rich, because I love everything. Like, we don't agree on every single thing, but like, Rich he's always been there. He's on the front line. He's organized. He's a good organizer. He knows he fights for the people, essentially. And when I brought that up, I was told, oh, if he's not in the Green Party, by one of the chair members, if he's not in the Green Party, you have to support who's ever running in District 5. I'm like, there's no one going to be stronger than Rich Siegel for District 5. And that's my personal opinion. So my energy would go behind him. So I'm just like, am I going to be forced to leave because of that? Or, so it's all up in the air, because he's even talked about, he's like, I don't know if I want to run under Green Party because I don't agree with everything. And with every platform, you have to sort of agree with everything the party does and says. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to force him to register for the party. If he wants to be an independent, he can be. If he wants to change as a progressive Dem, he can be. If he wants whatever party, I'm not going to force him to register, but I do want him. I have told him, whatever you want, I'm here to support you.
Interesting. Very interesting. This person is a Democrat named Richard Siegel. Is that?
No, he's an independent. But if he runs under a certain party, I'm not going to not support him, because I know he's for the people. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people that believe that, especially in the state of New Jersey, in order to, because the suppression of third party is so bad and it's a one-party system, majority of the people believe you have to run as either a progressive Dem or Republican and you have to primary. So I'm not going to go against them. Like, that's their core belief, and that's what they believe in. Excuse me. And I support them. So who am I to tell them that they're wrong? And if that's where like your heart and soul lies, then okay, we need to have the unification and again, take the party out of it and focus on the person.
Okay. All right. Well, tell you what, before we go here, let's just get to know you on a bit more of a personal level. I'll just throw out some questions. Favorite band?
Oh gosh. I don't have a favorite band right now. I've been listening to a lot of lo-fi. Maybe I'm saying the word wrong. Lo-fi music, lo-fi type of music.
Okay. I'm not familiar. What kind of music?
It's a relaxing type of music. Like, they just take beats, and it could be meditation or it could be upbeat. So it's very relaxing. Okay.
What book that you have read has changed your life the most?
I don't think it's a book by choice, the DSM-5.
Oh, well, okay.
That's my
right. I mean, you're a mental health. That makes sense.
That's the book I keep going back to, and it really changed my life, where I'm just like, oh, here I am, back to this page.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. Favorite movie?
God, I got a lot of favorite movies. I would have to say like White Chicks and the 28 series. Like later weeks, and I'm pretty excited for 28 years.
Wow. Okay. Very good. That's surprising. Did not expect that, but there you go. All right. Let me ask, favorite board game?
My favorite board game. I would have to say Monopoly.
Okay, very
But if
good.
we're talking about favorite game, right now me and my friends were doing Mario Party.
What's that?
Mario Party is a online like board game
Okay.
where like you could pick your character, whether it's like Mario, Luigi, but it's fun to get a group of friends together and like you're just yelling at each other because you're just like, oh well, it turns like it's like playing Mario Kart. It challenges friendships.
Okay. I was going to ask favorite video game next. So is that would be this or no?
Yeah, with my friends. But
Okay.
I do like the Zelda series too. So
Oh, okay.
doing like one player stuff.
Very good. Okay. What country would you like to visit if you could visit any country in the world?
If I could visit any country, I would have to say Egypt, because my family's only come to America to visit me.
Okay.
So I'd like to go back to like where my family's from and see my family there.
All right. Well, it's been really fun getting to know you, Christina. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. I hope you have a lovely day. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers before we wrap up here?
No, there's no thoughts. I'm just thankful that you invited me, and if you ever want to bring me back on, feel free to reach out. Other than that, thank you
Absolutely.
guys for listening.
And good luck on your future political endeavors. I know you probably will be running again for something. So
Yeah, we'll see.
And best of luck in your work, helping your clients and doing your best to get people what they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.